I'm Lauren Kling, and this is 5 Things That Changed Your Life. Each episode, I sit down with a special guest and ask them to share 5 stories, events, or experiences that had an impact on their life, like a person who helped them decide a path to take, or a place that completely transformed the way they think. Perhaps it was inspiration from a family road trip or a childhood TV show that helped them to make the person they are today. This week's guest, Kelly Milam.
Empaths are sponges sometimes.
Right.
When I was a child, I could feel things happening before they happen. A lot of people have it, very sensitive people. It would hurt me to where I would panic. I would be afraid of everything. I didn't understand the feelings that would come over me. And usually I could feel it in the air the minute somebody walked in. For example, like I can predict a phone call that's not going to be a great one. Like my husband will call and say, all this stuff happened at work, and before he calls, my heart will start to beat a little bit. I just feel things with people that they try to hide, and I can feel it. I just had it on a grander scale. And the animals that I worked with, they brought it out like tenfold. It was just, I could just feel stuff all the time.
Kelly is the founder and former director of Sante D'or, a volunteer-run animal adoption center and community-focused rescue located in Los Angeles, California. She's an animal rights activist for domestic and wild animals and a member of the international ocean conservation and advocacy organization, Oceana. Joining me, as always, is my producer, Alan Ng. How's it going?
Oh, it's going great. Hello,
Good.
everybody.
Hello.
We are officially on the back end of the season on episode 7.
Right, and we haven't really announced anything officially yet, but we're looking to possibly do a special episode at the end of the season. More details to follow.
Yes.
But that might involve bringing back multiple guests in some kind of recap show.
Yes.
Like, remember the sitcoms of the 80s and 90s when it would be like Family Ties, everyone would sit in front of the fireplace, reminisce about past episodes?
Oh, I was hoping it was going to be more like the Real Housewives or something.
Well, that too. So the idea is to meld some kind of 80s sitcom review show with making somebody cry backstage.
Right. So you'll be responsible for the recap portion, and I will be responsible for the bringing up tension and conflict throughout the season.
That's the plan. So anyway, stay tuned for more info on that. But back to this week's episode. Our guest this week is Kelly Milam.
Now, how do you know Kelly?
So Kelly used to run and was the director and founder of an animal rescue here in Los Angeles. The last 2 cats that we adopted came from this organization, and Kelly was just this wonderful, knowledgeable person who seemed to just in a calm way know how to put people and their forever pets together. It was nice to have somebody who's truly not in the entertainment business on an episode. That's been...
that's something we definitely talked about was, not making it all about, Hollywood entertainment types, creative types, but really talk to people who have a passion about something. And you and Kelly definitely have a passion for cats and cat rescues.
And here are the 5 things that changed Kelly's life. Number 1, how music of the 60s and 70s influenced her life and continues to do so today. Number 2, being a California girl and moving to a farm in Arkansas, and how she was ostracized by the popular kids because she thought differently. Number 3, living her life as an empath and learning how to protect herself. Number 4, how Kelly stumbled into animal rescue and made it into something successful. And number 5, animal communication, talking with the animals. Here's our interview with Kelly Milam. How are you, Kelly?
I'm good.
Excellent. So we asked you to give us a list of 5 things that changed your life, tentpole moments that you were like, oh, okay, that altered my life in somehow, big or small. One of the things you mentioned is music of the 60s and the 70s and how it influenced your life greatly, and you still live it today. You sang in bands, and that how you met your son's father. So there's a lot in here. So let's talk about the music. Why the 60s, 70s?
It started, I was listening to music, I was young, so I didn't have taste. My dad's friend moved, and he brought over all this old stacks of records. So I started looking through them and saw like Led Zeppelin and the Eagles and all this stuff. And, I remember hearing it in the background when I was a kid, but didn't really focus on it. I was probably about, 14 or 15. And I put on the first Led Zeppelin album and listened to Black Dog.
Wow.
And I was like, and I just got hooked. And then I just started reading about the 60s, and I watched Monterey Pop and Woodstock. I'm getting goosebumps. And I was just like, this is like what it should still be like. Music should still be like this good. And I was, it was the 80s.
Right.
So it was like, there's some good bands in the 80s, of course. But this was like the essence for me of...
Right. Well, what is it about the music that you don't think is there anymore?
Well, I mean, it was the start of it. It was just the whole, nostalgic part of what people were feeling at the time, what they were experiencing, the change, the racial tensions, all that stuff. To me, that was fascinating.
It was less of the pop rock and more of the groovy rock sort of.
Absolutely. It was original at that time. Everybody else is taking after that now. There's a lot of original stuff, but those are the roots. Yeah,
like the Beach Boys and the Beatles were searching for new sounds, and they were getting it from everything from like a bucket, a PVC bucket, and there was very little digital and electronics going on, going on.
They thought that he was crazy. Even the Beach Boys thought that Brian Wilson was crazy, singing a song to God on Pet Sounds and all that stuff. So, it was... and then everyone was amazed by it. He was really jealous of the Beatles for doing Sgt. Pepper, which is understandable. But his stuff was amazing, too. I love him.
Right. So give me some of the bands that you were influenced by that you absolutely loved.
Well, I love Led Zeppelin. I love Joni Mitchell. I wanted to be her. Joan Baez. I love Neil Young, Bob Dylan, of course. There's so many...
So really the storytellers is who you were attracted to.
Totally.
So it was the stories in the songs that really drew you
It really was. And it was also, too, just thinking about the time and how everything was changing. I love that.
Yeah. And then how do you think the times were changing in the 80s?
Oh, well, it was changing. It was like reverting back to awfulness because of the Reagan years, and everything that was everything that was free was starting to become not free anymore, and shame on you, and family values, and just say no, and there was no more. The freedom was leaving. It felt to me.
Right, I get that.
Yeah.
So were you in bands?
I would sing backup in bands. I always had boyfriends that were musicians, so I tagged along, and whenever I could, get in on it, I would sing. I learned how to play guitar by myself, and then asking boyfriends, well, how do I do this one? And then I would get songbooks and sing for myself. I had a little setup in my living room where I would have the PA and the microphone and a guitar.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you ever play now, or?
I do. I just actually got a travel-sized baby Taylor, and I've been playing with it a little bit.
How does it feel to come back to it?
It still feels the same. You still feel just that good feeling. And I don't need to perform for anybody. It's just really for me.
Right.
Yeah, I love it.
Do you write lyrics with your music?
I don't. I do little songs in my head, but I haven't. I just really love what was out there already, and I just love learning it,
Yeah.
I think because I'm just a novice, barely, and I'm not that talented, but I like it.
But you get to create something, and
my own sound, because I certainly can't play like Joni Mitchell, because she invented 30 tunings to a guitar. It was amazing, and I'm just plucking away, trying to sound a little bit, like her. I've had people tell me, "Oh, that sounds really pretty." I'm like, "Oh, thank you." But still, I'm shy about it. My ears, if I have to sing for anybody, my ears burn. So I could never have really been a performer. It was just kind of like a dream in my head,
Right.
Like
a hobby, like a comfort hobby.
Yeah, it totally was.
Yeah. And then you also mentioned that's how you met your son's
Yes. We had a group of friends that hung out together, and we used to, every Saturday, all the musicians in their, late teens, early 20s would come to this garage that was completely soundproof, and we would, everybody would play take turns playing.
Right.
And so I heard him sing, and he sounded just like David Bowie. He could imitate his voice, and he was really powerful. And he had big blue eyes, and he was cute. And I was like, oh, I'm coming every Saturday.
Right.
Yeah. And that's kind of how it happened.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's kind of a tribal thing when getting together and playing music. I mean, in camp, just in summer camp, where everyone would gather around and they'd tell you pick up an instrument and just start playing something. There's something communal.
It is. It really is. I think it just really goes back when everybody would sit around a fire and make sounds. I mean, it really is a connection.
Yeah.
To everybody joining in on something, and that's really what it was. People were rotating in and out of that garage. You know, different musicians were showing up at different times, and it felt really good. It was very it was kind of 60s. To me,
right?
60-ish, 70s.
Yeah, when I was a kid
great.
out here in the valley, we lived in one place in Woodland Hills, and there was a garage band, and all they would play was My Sharona. That was it. Do 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 do. That's all they learned, and so it drove my dad crazy. But to me, it was a great thought because
that is an easy song to learn, especially if you're learning to be a drummer.
Oh, yeah.
There's all those the Ringo Starr drumming stuff. All that stuff's like what drummers usually start out with.
Right.
What I've seen from musicians.
Yeah.
But I think it's great. Even if it's bad, it's good.
Yeah.
Just getting together and doing it.
Did you know I was in a band back in the days?
No, what?
I was in a Depeche Mode cover band.
Oh, I love Depeche Mode. My son loves Depeche Mode.
Really?
Oh my gosh, he loves them and The Cure. I mean, he has like my taste.
That's
all the old good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Back in the day when we could wait overnight outside a record store for tickets to a show, my friend Brady and I waited for Depeche Mode tickets. Met these guys, Tom and Ricky. And Ricky, they were in a band, so they had music on a cassette that they played for us. And we found out we loved Depeche Mode and ended up just jamming with keyboard, on our keyboards.
That's how it happens.
But it becomes a communal thing, a friend thing, then going to concerts and
It makes you feel really cool too. You're like, I can play an instrument and I can play this song and we're doing this together.
Uh-huh.
And it does it. It's the camaraderie. It's like the coolness of it. And
yeah.
I notice most musicians are really geeky guys. And girls, of course.
Right.
And they're really intellectual, and but they play this crazy music, what comes out of them. It's amazing. You can't be, I don't know what I was saying. I'm going off on a tangent. It's a good thing. Music is an amazing thing. It brings people together.
Do you go to those tribute band concerts?
I never do, no.
I think, Lauren, you did.
I know about them.
Yeah.
Oh, I did see Wild Child, I think is what it was called. It's like the Doors cover band one time. I did see that, years ago.
And then Led Zeppelin.
Yeah. And then there's the Iron Maidens, too.
Right.
There's the female Iron... Because my kids are, metal. My husband's a metal guy. So, of course, Iron Maiden, is a big deal.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we went to go see Strangelove, which is a Depeche Mode cover band. And just... You want to notice it's not the same, but then you get lost.
Yeah.
As soon as you get lost into the music and the visuals.
No, I know. There's something really special about it, and I think that's why I've always been attracted to that.
Yeah. But just to, hear what you love and then see someone try to recreate it live before you is because short of getting the real guys back together,
I love when other people have versions of things was it Ryan Adams doing the Oasis song Wonderwall, and he some people do some amazing covers, and when I hear that and when I get that goosebump feeling, I'm like, that's a good one. That's really good, and I listen to that once in a while.
Are you into mashups at all? I find some of those fascinating.
Really? I don't. I'm really not tuned into too much new stuff at all.
Right.
So my husband shows me things because he's always listening to music, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's good. But I find things on my own.
Yeah.
I like a lot of women. I love St. Vincent. It's such a great band, and I was listening to that this morning, and she's amazing. But yeah, I don't go out searching. It just finds me.
Right. Yeah. No, I get it. Cool. All right. I want to move over to something else you talked about. You moved to Arkansas in the late 70s. And you're a California city girl moving to Arkansas. Now, a lot of people on our podcast are people from outside L.A. who moved to L.A. for the dream of being an actor.
Yes.
So
yeah, they're one of their 5 important things. It was the move to L.A. and you're kind of our opposite.
Yeah.
I've done it once. I moved back from there. My father is a Southern guy. He was born in Paris, Arkansas. And so in the 70s, I was a little kid, 8 years old. My brother was getting into some trouble. My dad thought, oh, let's move back east to my own, area. So we moved to Bentonville. And so my brother would stay out of trouble. Well, it was worse once we got there. But it was, we moved from like a little backyard with a pool to 5 acres with a pond. And my dad got us a Shetland pony. And my sister and I had no idea how to ride a horse.
But you had a pony. Like, that's every girl's
dream. I
dream.
came home from school and walked into the garage, and the pony was tied in the garage because my dad hadn't built a pen yet. That's how my dad was. And my stepmom was so upset about it. But I was so happy. So my sister and I would get on this pony and ride it like 3 miles down the road, see a friend, tie the horse up. Horse would pull out of its bridle and go home. And we'd have to walk because the Shetland ponies are stubborn and they don't want to do anything. Yeah. And they're a little mean too.
Right. How quickly did you grow accustomed to life on a farm?
I was not into it, really. I noticed the beauty of it. I got poison ivy horribly. I'm horribly allergic to poison ivy. I had no idea that it was out there. For like every summer I got it because I was a kid. I wanted to be back in the city. People there just were not they weren't just, the girls were hard. And it was just, California was just I wanted to come back.
Right. And so how long were you out there before you came back?
8 years.
Wow. That's a long time.
And then when my dad finally said, we're moving to Arizona for my job. And I go, that's close enough.
Wow.
Maybe I can get back into California. And we did because my mom lived there.
Okay.
They were separated or divorced. So yeah, it was hard being there. It was so beautiful and fun in the summer, and there were things to do, but there's just something about LA, and I was Orange County that we originally came from. It's just, there's more stuff going on, and people are more liberal, and I don't know, there was a lot of racism in Arkansas, a lot of bad things that I saw as a kid. I was always tuned in.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah.
I wouldn't think of Orange County as liberal.
Well, I think versus us, Northwest Arkansas, Bentonville, this town of Walmart, it's much more, people are just different.
Right. It's different. It's not that they're wrong and we're right. It's just you grow up in a different environment.
It's cool with things.
Well, it's also how you feel about things, and like you're born predisposed, of like just the type of person you are, and my parents were not at all like I am. And I just, for some reason, I was always like, nope, you're wrong and this is right. This is how it's always been for me. I've always been very liberal and accepting of people and trusting in good people, and that all that dark, not helping other people because of their skin or whatever, their class. I don't dig that.
Yeah.
It's not good.
I got it. Have you ever gone back to Arkansas or the Midwest as an adult?
Nope. And I've thought about doing it too, just to kind of see. And the funny thing is, all the friends that I have, they're like Facebook friends now, and they were little partiers and always getting in trouble, but they're total Christian Republicans, every single one of them. And I keep them on Facebook just to get a laugh.
Wow. Again, a different point of view.
Yes.
Just to be open to somebody else's background and viewpoint.
It was a rich town, too, I have to say that, too. It was like upper middle class people. So it's probably different than other towns in Arkansas. I'm not going to bash Arkansas. Things have changed, but that was my perception of it,
Right. So you had mentioned one of the things you wrote on here, you were ostracized in junior high by a popular group of friends that you hung around with because you thought differently. Was this in Arkansas?
Yeah. It was one of the reasons why my dad was so keen of like finding a job out of there, because the girls, I was hanging around with a popular group of girls, and they were kind of naughty. They would do things that, girls are not supposed to do. Teenagers are not supposed to do, but do behind their parents' back.
Right.
And I wasn't really against that, but they would do things to other people, put them down for, disabilities or not having enough money, things like that. And there's a couple things they wanted me to participate in that I just completely wouldn't do. They tell me not to talk to somebody. And I would just say, I'm not going to do that. So they finally turned the tables on me and they met me after school and pinned me down and just made me feel, and then they made sure everybody in the school didn't speak to me, and they would call and just do things that were really painful when you're a child.
Yeah.
And it was really trying for me because I never had that happen to me before. And these girls were just so mean. And it was funny because the people that I talked to that they said to shun, these people shunned me after I was the one to be shunned. It was all about that popular thing. And they did some horrible things to people that was really mean. They made a girl, they pinned a girl down that they were picking on, and I was watching this, and I'm the one who told of what happened.
Right.
They made her undress in front of everybody, get inside a dryer at a laundromat, and they went and threw her clothes over a fence. So she had to walk out naked, this young girl, and go into my apartment building, knocked on the door, and my dad answered the door. And his friend was over, and they put the coat over her, called her mother. And I felt so bad for that for so many years. It was so haunting. But I was the one, my sister didn't tell, I was the one who told. And then after that, I was like, I couldn't even go to school. They were after me every single day. It became really hard. So my dad had to take me out of that school and put me in a Christian school, the only other school in town.
Right.
And then he was looking for another job to move. And I realized how bad that was. I knew it at the time, but I had that fear. But I did tell on them.
Wow.
And I'm glad I did now.
Yeah.
Totally. But
How you seem the kind of person where that's just something in the past that you've learned from that and moved on.
Mm-hmm.
So when did you learn that? When did it stop hurting?
Probably, I always thought about it like as a shame thing that I should have done more at the time it was happening. You know how we beat ourselves up about things. I think, in my mid-20s, I was like, look, you were in a situation and you did the right thing in the end. And this, you got away from those people, and those people have to live with that now.
Right.
And, you really didn't want that to happen. I mean, I try not to beat myself up about things like that, but that was, as a child, you don't understand so much. And it was really hard for me. I was a worrier. I always wanted people to feel comfortable and good. And, I was always trying to fix a problem.
Right.
My parents were arguing, or the step-parents or whatever. I was always trying to calm everything down. And that was just me. And I could always feel when something was happening. So I don't know. I've always tried to do the right thing after that.
Yeah. Well, good. You mentioned something on here which I'm really interested about. You said living my life as an empath and learning how to protect myself. So can you explain what an empath is and when that you first felt it?
Well, like I said, I was saying when I was a child, I could feel things happening before they happen. It's not a psychic ability. I guess it kind of is in a way. A lot of people have it, very sensitive people. It would hurt me to where I would panic. I would be afraid of everything. I didn't understand the feelings that would come over me. And usually I could feel it in the air the minute somebody walked in. If something was going to happen, for example, like I can predict a phone call that's not going to be a great one. Like my husband will call and say, all this stuff happened at work. And before he calls, my heart will start to beat a little bit. And I just feel things with people that they try to hide, and I can feel it. I'm sure, lots of people have it. I just had it really strong. And the way I protect myself is I breathe, and I realize, and I have to say, you can't take it on, because empaths are sponges sometimes.
Right.
And they take on all the nasty, and they don't know how to release it. I had to have a few healers help me with that, and learning how to release all the stuff. So now when a situation is bad, I get out of it. Mm-hmm. Or I just breathe and deal with it, and that's how I do it now. But I've met a lot of people.
I was just saying, it sounds like you're in tune emotionally with other people, and you're very intuitive as well. You can kind of sense when the tides are shifting.
Yeah.
And I was also thinking, like for me, it happens a lot where if someone tells a story about them and some injustice or something, or they've been wronged, I tend to take on that feeling as well, and that kind of takes over me as, where I'm feeling what they're feeling to the point where I'm like, scared.
That's empathic. Yeah, that absolutely is. And everybody has a touch of it. Some people are more in tune with it with other people. Like my husband and I are like, it's like we share the same heart and brain sometimes. I just know. My children too. Just like when someone's not telling you the truth about something. It's just so obvious.
But like movies are kind of like that, where you get so angry about something in a movie, or you feel heartfelt and emotion because of a movie.
I'm a big movie crier and excited.
Are you?
Yeah, I am. Yeah, because I dig the whole art of like motion pictures,
right?
And there's so much great stuff out there. But yeah, the human emotion.
Yeah.
Is strong, and that fascinates me. I'm a psychology major, so that helped me too. Which I don't use it, but I do use it just in the game of life.
Right, just to kind of understand people.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, ultimately, that's what art is. It's the ability or the desire to evoke an emotion in your audience.
Yeah.
Whether that's a movie or a piece of artwork, but it's you want to connect with them emotionally.
Mm-hmm. And some can just like get you so good, and then some are just little off good, but but there's the ones you always remember, the ones that get you, make you cry, and it could just be something on television nowadays because it's so good. Television's never been better.
It's
right.
There's a lot of great stuff on TV.
Yeah. That's a whole other podcast.
but
all the awesome stuff.
But being empathic is you do, if you ever meet a child, or you ever have a child or meet a child and they're like a worrier, you can almost bet that they're empathic.
Right.
You do start out as a worrier. I used to get panic attacks because of it all the time. Not so much anymore.
Well, I used to have a feeling when my mom was going to call, and she would have it with me, like we would know.
That's your connection,
yeah.
And that's definitely what it is.
Yeah.
I just had it on a grander scale. And the animals that I worked with, they brought it out like tenfold. It was just, I could just feel stuff all the time. And I just knew with the animals, not just the people. The animals do such amazing things too, but that's another story.
Well, they can sense that stuff too. I mean, they can sense when you're angry. They tell you. Yeah.
They tell you, for sure.
Yeah, that's one of the fascinating things about, Rebecca and I knowing you is learning and being open to the world of animals and animal communication, animal energy, and just trying to wrap your head around an animal that doesn't have to worry about feelings and emotions like humans do, and that kind of cuts us off from this higher ability.
They connect differently, but like Rebecca's getting so much better at connecting now because she's been around him so much.
Right.
And you do. They make you feel it if you listen, I guess.
Yeah.
But it is amazing.
It is. So one of the things that changed your life, you said, how I stumbled into animal rescue and made it into something successful. So have you always loved animals?
Oh, yeah, sure. I've loved them so much.
You got a pony, so...
Yeah, and goats and just anything baby and cute, when you're little is great. And you just grow up with certain animals that you love so much, and just anything on, like, you didn't care if the person on television died, but don't kill that horse. Don't make sure the dog doesn't get shot. Those types of things. Exactly. Or where the red fern grows.
Oh.
It's like, forget that book, and I don't ever want to see that movie again. So hard. Or The Yearling.
Right. Why? What is it? Is it that the animals are helpless? Do you think it's that?
I think when when you're a kid, you think that they are, but I don't know. It's the philosophy of kill or be killed, or the hunter, the prey. I don't know. I mean now think I don't want to see anything eaten or killed, but I know that it has to be done in the wild. But people and animals not treating them well, it's a different story. That's painful.
Yeah.
Because that can be avoided.
Right.
Yeah.
And now, so you talk about you stumbled into animal rescue.
Well, like I said, I have a degree. I was a teacher. I didn't like it. My husband, well, not my husband, but long-time relationship, my kid's father, I had to quit that job, and I was doing other jobs, odd jobs. And my friend, who was big into rescue, kept telling me about this dog rescue that she was volunteering at. She's like, well, they need someone to help at the kennel. And I was like, I'm not going to work at a dog kennel. I don't want to smell poop. It's not that I don't love dogs, but also I'm afraid of dogs. They're going to bite me.
Right.
And I went there the first day, and my ex is like, hey, you have to do something and just get out of this and go and do something. So I went to volunteer and went there one day and went back every day after that.
In one day?
One day, got bit by a little dachshund with one eye named Shotzi or something, or Schultz. And they just needed my help so greatly. It was a disaster over there. And it was a beagle rescue.
Wow.
And I met my dog the first day, my love for 16 years, yeah. And I was within a year, I was the manager of the kennel. And I just started learning everything. I just found something I really could help in and loved. And I like to help. And that's the reason I did it. It was just really about that. I didn't care about the money situation. It just filled something up in me. And I brought my kids to work with me, and it was great. And then it wasn't as great after 2 years there. I felt that I started learning things like nutrition, all the things I didn't know, and I tried to push it onto my boss, and she's like, And I was like, I'm going to start my own place. And I did.
Wow.
And that's when I started the rescue that I was at until recently.
How long were you running that rescue?
12 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we've spoken with a lot of artists, actors, and comedians and things like that, and we talk about that we're trying to make our own art, something that has meaning to us, yet we kind of want the fame. But when you're working with animals, there's no fame in there. Mm-mm. There's love. There's wanting to help.
Hard work.
And hard work.
Just determination to make sure they all survive and get into homes and to give them there's so many situations that aren't good out there for animals, and people are trying to be good.
Right.
Just trying to give them everything until they get that home. Just healing them until they have. That was really important to me.
Yeah.
Feed them good, love them, give them a nice place to sleep, very clean. That was a big important thing to me, and fame is absolutely not ever on my agenda in anything I do.
Right.
It's what feels like the right thing to do.
Were you an empath with the animals too? Mm-hmm. So you could kind of feel what they needed and wanted.
I always knew, and I never got scratched very much. People around me were getting scratched and bit left and right, and it did happen to me.
Yeah.
But I just felt certain things with certain animals. And not every animal liked me. That's not the case. It's just I just knew how to watch out for that bite and that scratch and different things. But I definitely think that was my calling at the time. It was to do something like that.
Yeah.
And it felt really good, but it was so much work.
I'll bet.
Mm-hmm.
And so so one of the things you mentioned here, saying starting over in your 40s, is that where we are now?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I recently had resigned. It's been a year since I resigned from the rescue. I was worn down. I didn't like where the board was going at the time.
Right.
My mission statement was being slowly erased.
Right.
While I was slaving away.
You were being true to yourself.
Yes.
Like you left the Beagle Rescue. You needed to take care of you.
I did. The universe said, "Nope, bye. You're done.
Right.
You're doing something else."
Right.
And it's working out. I feel like that I have some kind of a really good guide in my life, a greater being or whatever. I just feel that I'm always protected.
Yeah.
I really do.
Do you want to stay and remain helping animals in some way, or do you think you're even finding yourself evolving into something else?
Right now, I'm not ready, and that could change because I do think about the rescue a lot, and going back, I think about different things like that, but then I'm just I'm happy in the place I'm at, exploring different things, having time, which I didn't have before. My phone was ringing, 50 times a day, because there's always a stray animal, always,
right.
And there's always someone that needs help. And I enjoyed it for a long time, but then it got to be almost a dread, something I dreaded.
Right.
Was getting up and doing it. I love the part of when it was so perfect with the animals and adoption worked out, but all the other stuff that it entailed. And I'm a pretty introverted person. I spend a lot of time by myself when I'm alone or with my family, so I was really out in the public eye with people, and it was getting to be too much for me.
Right.
And I didn't want to. I didn't realize that at the time when I was in a way forced to resign in many ways. it was really doing something to me emotionally and physically.
Do you look back at it now? It's only been a year. Do you look back at it now still with the anger and or do you? It seems like you've kind of like it. There was a purpose. It was just.
No, I don't now. At first, of course. Now I look at it like, you get what you wish for. They wanted what the change, and they pushed, and I want to be happy, and and I wasn't anymore, and I realized that in the middle of this whole thing, in the middle of the year, like, you know what? Thank goodness, or thank God.
Yeah. Well, right. I think we don't often give ourselves permission to appreciate ourselves, to take care of ourselves first before we can take any care of anyone else.
Yeah. So it's so true, and now I'm learning that I need to take care of myself, take care of my husband, my kids who are in college, and have time with friends, which I didn't before, and travel, which I put on hold.
Yeah.
I allowed a lot of things to happen to me in that job because I was not thinking of myself first. And sometimes you just have to think of yourself first.
You have to refresh. You have to.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, the fact that vacation is kind of looked upon in the U.S. as like a bad thing.
I know, right?
I'd
rather live, in Sweden when it comes to stuff like that. 3 months off with the child paid when you have a baby.
Right.
There's so many good things, and it's very strange. The workforce here is like, work.
Right.
Don't take time off. Get to work on, it's just a much more lax somewhere else.
I think we all kind of fear that office space, Alan.
Oh, no,
We've talked about that.
That's scary. I wouldn't know what to do with that.
Do you feel like at your previous job, I knew my biggest frustrations at my job was feeling like I wasn't being heard or feeling misunderstood. And that's kind of where you start getting pushed out that way when they just don't want to hear you.
Well, that's like when new people come, because it's a nonprofit run by a board of directors, and people can show a different side until they get into the niche.
Right.
And that happened a lot, different people.
Like, you're my obstacle now. So I either listen to you and incorporate what you say, or I nudge you out.
That's what happened. And I would never do something like that. I like transparency. If someone didn't like something or
just
they want it, just freaking say it. Don't hurt people. Stop hurting. I don't like that. And I think with everything, it was hurtful that people more hurtful that they did this and were not transparent about it. I could have taken that.
Right.
But now,
like if they were open about their disagreement with you.
Yes, instead of just walking around and not talking to me and doing things that were unethical for being, a nonprofit and helping animals. You never think that that's going to help happen, but I've seen so many different nonprofits with shady situations going on, and it's a shame. But I can say that the people that are there now, they do love these animals, and that is their goal, is to take care of them. Maybe not in the same way as me, but I just got to let that go.
Yeah.
And I started and it's still there, and I paved the way. And that's good. I have to think of it that way.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be there without you.
No, and I'm still on there as founder and that's important to me. It's like I did something that helped people and animals so greatly, and I feel good about that. That makes me feel good.
Yeah.
And I raised 2 children, and I taught them how to do it. And it was the funniest story with my kids. Like, every child wants to bottle feed a kitten, right? You bring a kitten in a bottle, and a kid is like about ready to like pee their pants. They're so excited and can't wait to touch it. I'd say to my kids after being in rescue 5 years, I'm like, honey, please bottle feed this kitten. Mom has to do this thing. No way, Mom. Nope. I don't want to bottle feed that kitten. And it was just like they were so jaded from dealing with the animals in their bathtubs all the time and locked in a cage. Like, Mom, the cat's pooped. So, it was kind of a relaxation for the whole family. But they learned a lot, and they're good boys.
Yeah.
They still went to help me all the time. So.
Would you call yourself a cat lady?
No. No.
What do you think the definition of a cat lady? Because we have 3 cats, and I feel like we're one shy of cat lady status.
No, you're definitely not. And people love cats, and you keep a nice house. Doesn't smell like unless they use the restroom. Your cats are well taken care of. Cat ladies are when they're jumping out the window of someone's house, and she's still got a roller in from 4 days ago, and has a dirty old bathrobe. That's a cat lady.
And they're breeding in some unknown location.
The worst thing about being in the rescue in this city for me was I'd be in a restaurant somewhere, and a person would come up and go, "You're the cat lady," and I would be like, "No, I'm the rescue person." They would call me the cat lady, and that was embarrassing to me. I'd be like at Blair's or something, or one of the nice places, trying to blend in, and they would call me out as the cat lady, and that upset me a little bit because it's rescue. It's not. The cat lady is the lady down the street that everybody's a little afraid of that never mows her lawn and things like that.
Got it. One of the things that I'm personally fascinated with, which is something you introduced Rebecca and I to, was animal communication. Mm-hmm. I find it fascinating, both because it can't be proven, and I'm always trying to want to see scientific proof of things, but also that there's just enough there when I hear it, I'm like, oh my God, how did they know that? Or how that actually worked?
Yeah.
So
I didn't believe it. Let's just say that.
Okay.
I was, like I said, I was working at the first animal rescue,
right.
The Beagle Rescue. And I met this woman I went into Petco a lot, and I saw the adoptions going on there. And I was talking to this woman, and she was talking to this other woman who was really like a beautiful, like in shape, just really, she had an accent. It was French and Spanish combined, and she was about in her late 30s.
Right.
So I went over and was talking to them, and she's like, "This is my friend Lila Del Monte. She's in animal communication. I mean, she's into animal communication. She's a communicator, and she's in school for it, but she's always had it." And I was like, mm-hmm. And I said, "Oh, cool." And then so I just started talking to Lila, and I just really felt this warmth with her. She was very warm,
right.
And she seemed like she understood things really well. And so I said, "Okay, I just got this beagle, my beagle." And she's like, "I'm practicing. Do you want me to do a story? Do you want me to do your dog?" And I said, "That would be great." And so she's like, "All I need is a picture." And I said, "Well, I have him with me." And my son was leading him around the store and brought him over. So she sat with him for a while. And then she goes, "Well, I need to go home. I'm going to write it all down to you and then call you." I said, "Okay, great." So she told me, she's like, "First of all, this dog is a soulmate to you. This dog picked you, and he called you back." When I first came into the rescue, my friend was showing me around to the Beagle Rescue. Mm-hmm. She showed me these cages where these dogs had injuries, so they were in pens, so they didn't move around too much.
Right.
We rescued a lot of dogs that had injuries. Well, he was a little beagle that had been hit by a car, and I remember she said to me, "This is Alex," and the little dog, and I said, "Oh, he's so cute," and my son's name is Alex, so it was, mm-hmm. I'm like, I love the name. And I went looking at all the dogs, and then I remember just wanting to go back and look at him one more time. So Lila tells me, "Well, you met him the first day you went to a new job, and he called you back to him. He picked you. He knew that was you, that he was supposed to go home with you. He was an already adopted dog. Once he got well, he was going to go to this other home. So I took him home to foster him."
Okay.
And I just fell in love with him, and I had already had him at that time. So she told me just things. Oh, and I can see this vision in you meeting him and all these different sons and just all these things that she couldn't have known because she'd never been in. And she had a bunch of clay suns all over the walls in the yard where the dogs were in the sunshine. And she just told me things that are just not possible for her to know.
Right.
And the way the dog was with me. She said, "Oh, he was promised to somebody else, but the people ended up giving him to me. They even paid the adoption fee." Because I called them, I said, "Oh, I've been fostering this dog for a month. I love him." I had already adopted another dog thinking I just needed a rescue. Mm-hmm. And the people said to me, "Oh, of course, we'll take the other dog just to help a dog, and we'll just give him to you. We just want these dogs to have good homes." And they had like a little gaggle, or not gaggle, that's geese, but a little amount of dogs at their house. They had 5 beagles, but they had this great big property, and they let the beagles run around. So they gave him to me as a gift, and it was just really, he was a gift.
And so right away you were a believer.
Yes, and then Lila, I said, "How did you know this?" And she's like, "You speak to them." She's like, "It's not in voice." She's like, "They speak to you in images, feelings, just so many different things." And she told me how she did it. Different people start in a different way. And I started working with her, and she's who I started Sante D'or with. should I just not say the word? It's who I started the rescue with.
Right.
She was one of the founders. She didn't stay very long because now she's a pioneer in Europe. She went in, she did a documentary. Her name's Lila Del Monte. She's just so in tune. And there was another woman named Kim Sheridan that wrote a book. She was into rats. She loved rats as pets. So she wrote a book about animal communication called Animals in the Afterlife and how they're still there. She called like animal communicators all over the country and had them communicate with one rat. Almost every story came back identical.
Wow.
To this rat. So it's a great book to read. And then I watched the animals with the people, and I've dealt with other animal communicators. It's just people that are more in tune. It's the old way of life, of like from the very beginning when we were, what am I saying? Neanderthal, Cro-Magnon man, whatever. We were in tune with animals then. We could, hear their heartbeats pretty much. We've lost all that through technology and everything superficial, and so it's just really going back to the old ways of how we communicated with animals.
Kelly, thank you so much for being on this show.
Of course.
I appreciate it. My thanks as always to my co-host and producer Alan Ng, and to this episode's guest, Kelly Milam. Our sound engineer is Stephen Ray Morris. You can contact him at stephenraymorris.com. Music by My Monthly Date. You can find them at facebook.com/mymonthly-date. Subscribe to 5 Things That Changed Your Life on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, or your favorite podcast service. And go ahead and leave us a nice review if you'd like. You can follow us online at 5thingspodcast.com or on Facebook at facebook.com/5thingspodcast, that's FIVE, or on Twitter at 5thingspod, that's FIVEPOD. For 5 Things That Changed Your Life, I'm Lauren Kling.